Alright, so I got my heater going. It's kind of cold out here, but that'll keep it warm in the garage. And I got my guard dog Jake watching over things. So this is Jeep Update 56, and in 56 we're going to put on the March Serpentine Pulley system. And in the process of putting that on, you're also going to put on your water pump, your alternator, and your power steering pump, because it kind of all goes together. So let me show you guys a couple things and then we'll get into it. Jake, are you guarding all these parts, buddy? Huh? You guarding the parts? No, that didn't mean getting the video. Oh, no, he's taking his normal post, right? Getting his post back. Alright, so over here I've got everything kind of laid out. And I've kind of tried to group things together. So I've got my alternator and what I think are my alternator pulleys and brackets. And I've got my power steering stuff over here. Water pump and water pump pulley. This one goes down at the bottom. Power steering pulley. Hardware. Instructions. So as far as directions go and instructions, they're okay. They're not great, they're okay. Here's a diagram of how your alternator goes on. You've got another one, kind of the overall setup. And then you've got some pretty detailed stuff about your power steering pump and how to do that. And that's because that one has to be shimmed with washers to ensure that it aligns with the rest of the pulleys. So another thing I did is I made a kind of a punch list, and I know with the motor mounted in there, you're thinking, hey, this won't take long to wrap everything up and get it running, but there's quite a bit to do. There's 48 or so items on here, and some of them are pretty simple. Some of them I've already done and crossed off, but some of them are, you know, the entire wiring or rewiring of the Jeep. So lots to do, and that's how I'm kind of trying to keep myself organized. Alright, I think I'm going to start with the water pump because everything kind of seems like that's the foundation and everything kind of bolts to that or builds off of that. Alright, there's the water pump. And now I'm going to build out the alternator brackets. Alright, so there's the alternator mounted, and you've got this bracket here. You got two bolts that go into the water pump, and then this one that comes up here and goes through the alternator, and then has this pretty good sized spacer, and then it goes into the engine block. Now over here you've got this kind of turnbuckle looking thing. It's stainless steel and it really looks sharp. I really like it. So this is going to give you your adjustability to tighten your belts when I get to that stage. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty slick. Never seen anything like that before. Alright, next thing I need to do is loosen up that nut on the alternator and change out the pulley there. The trick with this thing is it moves. So you got to hold it in your hand and hit it with an impact, and it should pop free pretty easily. Alright, I got the camera zoomed in on this. If anything goes wrong, at least it'll be on video. So should pop free pretty easily, being the key words, but let's see how this goes. Alright, that actually came off really easily, just like everybody said it would. I was very skeptical of that, so good. That's done and out of the way. Now I can put the new pulley on. I didn't tighten that down right now. I'm just kind of getting everything set into place. So now that that's done, let's move on to the harmonic balancer. So same kind of setup here. You've got a bolt there with a pretty thick washer, and the new pulley has to go underneath there and then bolt into these 3 holes in addition to the center bolt right there. So that thing will spin as well. So I'm going to try the same method to kind of hold it with my with my hand with a glove on, and hit it with the impact and see what happens. All right, that worked like a champ both times. That was easy. All right, so that's what that looks like there. That Harmonic Balancer pulley goes on with the main bolt in the middle, and then 3 supporting bolts that go into the holes already in the Harmonic Balancer. So again, not tightened up, just put on there, because at the end, once I get all these pulleys mounted, I got to align everything. All right, I've been putting it off because the instructions are pretty unclear here, but I'm going to go ahead and do this power steering pump that will go kind of in this general area here. I've already got it off. I went ahead and took it off and I drained it, although it's still coming out a little bit, and I tried to clean it up a little bit, but I think it's going to be easier to clean up once I get it mounted. Alright, so step 1 is to remove the studs on the back of the power steering pump. Kind of gives you a picture there. It's pretty easy to do. I think they were 11/16 and mine came off fairly easy. So the next thing they tell you to do is to bolt up these 2 power steering brackets. One bolts to the back of the power steering pump, and then this one here bolts to the front. And that's what they look like. And they tell you to use 3 washers, which I have ready, behind your water pump. Give you an orientation here. So there's your water pump, and you got your 2 mounting bolts right there, but this actually goes in that hole right there, the one below it. And it says, please note that if you have a later model water pump, then this hole is going to be threaded and you have to drill it out. Now there's the 2 drill bits, and obviously the 13/32 looks a lot bigger, and that's what I kind of thought. If you look at this, the way it's going to go in there, it just looks a little bit big for that hole. Well, that's good to know. The 9/32 doesn't even bite. So yeah, I bought that drill bit, added to the collection. At least I got a new drill bit, right? So yeah, there you go. So I guess I'm going to use the 13/32. Alright, so 13/32 is definitely the way to go. And you're cutting through aluminum, and that's a brand new bit. So it cut through pretty good. Alright, so the instructions want you to put the bolt through the first bracket, and then through the water pump, put 3 washers in there, and then the rear bracket. So when you're done, it's going to look something like this. And obviously the water pump will be in this area right here. This end of this bracket is threaded. So it's going to thread into that, and that's what's going to hold it in place. Alright, let me see if I can get that through the water pump. Okay, that is definitely how it's supposed to look. That's how it looks in the picture. I'm a little worried that the bolt might be a little bit long, but I'm going to tighten it up a little bit and see if it clears. All right, I know you can barely see that, but it barely clears, and that's kind of the cradle for the power steering pump. So the next thing they tell you to do is to attach the 3 screws. You got 2 on the front bracket and 1 on the rear bracket to the actual power steering pump itself. Alright, so I had to take it off, and I'll tell you why. It's because I couldn't get both of these bolts in, that one and that one. I couldn't get the mounting bracket on with the bolt that goes through the water pump, and there's why. So the lip, this lip right here, is interfering with the bolt that goes through the water pump. So, first problem of the install, really, and I don't know that that's going to be too much of a problem as long as I got a drill bit to fit it, and I'll see if I can just drill that out. And it shouldn't, keyword shouldn't, damage the pump at all. So this is a PSC pump, and I really do want to use it because it's matched to my PSC power steering box. So no reason I shouldn't be able to. I just have to drill that little lip off. Alright, so I got the, I used the same drill bit, that 13/32, and that's exactly what I was looking for. Alright, let's see if I can line this thing up and get it on. Alright, so coming to the conclusion that this power steering pump is not going to work. So if I keep this bolt in there like I had it before, and I notch this out for this bolt, the housing of the water pump is still going to interfere with the housing of the power steering pump, even if I cut that remaining lip off. So that's not going to work. So if I take that bolt out right there and kind of let it swing out here, the other bracket, which goes here, so that's the adjustment bracket, and that's supposed to go into that bolt hole to the right of that power steering shaft. And there's no way that I'm reaching that. Alright, this is a little hard to see, but this shaft on the back of the power steering pump is about right now 1.5 inches away from the block, and that is going to prevent me from being able to move the power steering pump up like that to where that adjustment bracket could reach the hole it needs to go in. So just not the right power steering pump at all. So again, this is a PSC power steering pump, and it goes with my PSC steering box, and it's specifically designed for a Jeep CJ7, and this is a Chevrolet 350 V8 obviously. So I guess I'm going to get on the phone with PSC tomorrow and see if they have a different application, because this one sure isn't going to work. Alright, so there's the water pump pulley, and it's not tightened up yet again, but it's on. So looks really good. Really happy with these pulleys. Ordered my new power steering pump today, and I ended up having to order a new one, and got it at Summit Racing, and they said it would fit this kit. So hopefully it'll be here tomorrow and I can finish these pulleys up. Alright, so there is the new power steering pump right here. Let me kind of show you the differences between the two. So the big difference is the orientation or the clocking of these bolts compared to where they line up on the power steering pump. So these are slightly clocked this way, and then if you look at this one, they have a pretty extreme clocking to the left. So that hopefully is going to work. That's a Summit power steering pump, and the guy I talked to at Summit said that would fit the March pulley kit that I got. So the other thing that you'll notice too is this is a press-on pulley, and this one's a keyway attachment for the pulley. You can see the little key down there, and if you look at the pulley that I got, so if you look right there, you can see this is a keyway pulley. Sorry, there's a lot of reflection there, but you can see the little key in the pulley. Alright, so here's the big test to see if I can get these brackets on and if it all lines up with the block. Alright, so there's the completed pulleys and belts. Everything is tightened down. I got all my nose caps on, and all I can say is I'm really impressed with the way it looks. This kit is a high quality kit. It certainly stumped me a little bit, mainly the power steering pump, but once I worked through that, it was fine. So the belts that you need for this are a 33.5, which is this 50, it's a 5 rib, 33.5 inch, and that's for your power steering pump and your power steering pump to your harmonic balancer. And then you need the 41, 6 rib, 41 for the alternator, water pump, and then ultimately to the harmonic balancer as well. Alright, so that wraps up Jeep Update 56. That was kind of a long video, but hey, I wanted to be real, so I wanted to include all of the troubles I had with it, and then obviously the power steering pump not being the correct model. Alright, so the completion of this allowed me to check off like 5 or 6 things from my punch list, because the water pump's done, the alternator's done, power steering pump's done, belts are done, and of course pulleys are done. So that was quite a bit to check off, and I'm completely done. Everything's tightened up. I don't have to go back and fiddle with anything. The only thing I'll have to do is tighten up those belts once they break in a little bit. I'm probably going to jump into the wiring next, and at the same time I'm doing that, because the wiring is kind of tedious and a little bit, not a little bit, it's a lot boring. I'll do other things as well on the Jeep to try to get this thing up and running. Real excited to have this thing running, and I'm getting, I guess I don't really feel like I'm getting too close yet, but every project that gets completed is a step closer. So I think I'm still, you know, probably a month away or so from firing this thing up. But that's just how these projects go. So stay tuned to the channel, more cool videos to come. And if you like this video, you like the content of the channel, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.